An integration course supported by the government and provided by non-governmental organization.
برأيي بالأنشطة الترفيهية.
The first step is language.
هو انفتاح المجتمع الفرنسي ثقافياً وعلمياً وسياسياً.
I had to take the charge. I was more independent.
Felt secure.
Accommodation was the most important.
La receptividad del país de acogida es lo más importante para quienes salimos del nuestro.
The French community, the people in France.
The opportunity to prove yourself.
Good integration programs.
The stability and the job and the society around me.
The society itself, the people that I lived with and around.
In Hungary, though there is no central government policy on refugee integration, there are still several actors, most of them are NGOs, that help refugees, providing them counseling, providing them social support. So it definitely gives a great help to these people to stay, settle, and integrate in Hungary. Most relevant thing when you look at NIEM's indicators in Hungary, that in many areas there's an apparent lack of integration policies and of integration measures, which means that though legally speaking beneficiaries of international protection enjoy similar rights to Hungarian citizens, but the measures that could give them equal opportunities are missing, and it causes a lot of difficulties when it comes to integration.
Integration of beneficiaries of international protection hasn't been a national priority at all. Actually, the efforts of the government have been to discourage refugees settling in the country and to make Bulgaria into a transit country. The national policy has been that the local integration has to happen on the local level, with the active involvement of the municipality through this integrational agreement, which is conducted between the mayor of a city or a town and the beneficiaries of international protection. In this regard, there is a desire for decentralization. However, due to lack of funding, lack of responsible authority, lack of coordination, lack of capacity building, lack of information, this policy hasn't been successful. It just hasn't been implemented.
Romania was very keen to award rights to migrants generally, and in particular to refugees and beneficiaries of other type of international protection, but only at the legislative level. NIEM is showing that Romania is top of the charts in the European Union on this perspective of issuing the rights in basic legislation, but it's struggling at the end of the tops when it comes to actually implementing this legislation, enacting it, making it relevant, and actually offering to all these people that are coming to Romania, beneficiaries of international protection, meaningful ways to access their rights, for example, access to labor market or education or the health system. Beneficiaries of international protection have access to the so-called integration program of 1 year, where they get free accommodation, access to a range of services, and access to social benefits and health. This is very helpful for them in the first months of their presence in Romania, and probably is the most important help that the state is offering to newcomers.
The NIEM results show that Lithuania have an adequate legal base on beneficiaries of international protection integration, however, still faces difficulties in enforcing the integration policies. That most of the challenges that are observed in the field of implementing strategic, or in other terms, long-term objectives of beneficiaries of international protection integration, and also putting efforts aimed at participation and involvement of the receiving society. Regarding the developments in the legal framework, key changes are related to a legal harmonization of the rights of persons who were granted a refugee status and who got subsidiary protection in the country. So until 2017, foreign nationals under subsidiary protection, they were like in much more vulnerable position because of a temporary permit for residence that we had. And in that case, we did not have like certain social guarantees that refugees have. In addition, on the 1st of January 2020, amendments of the law on legal status of aliens entered into force, which granted asylum seekers the right to work within the 6 months from the date on submitting the application for asylum.
In last 6 years in Slovenia, we had mainly negative legislative changes, which brought stricter conditions, less rights, more limitations for beneficiaries of international protection. Also, administrative procedures are very long. We have several people who are in the asylum procedure for more than 6 years. The main issues of beneficiaries of international protection are more or less staying the same throughout these 6 years: housing, employment, language barriers, and so on. But the biggest problem, I would say, is that the integration is still not seen as a two-way process, but mainly as the assimilation process of an individual. Also, the support that the state provides for beneficiaries of international protection was shortened from 3 years to only 2 years now. So I think this is not sufficient for people to actually integrate into society.
Generally, the system of integration of the beneficiaries of international protection in Czechia has very good, very solid legal foundations. I would say that most of the issues concerning the BIPs, most of the difficulties are of wider societal nature, meaning that most people in Czech Republic meet them in everyday life. For example, I'm talking about the lack of medical doctors. I'm talking about the lack of affordable accommodation and so on. I would say that if there is one big issue that we found and we think is solvable, at least in the mid-term, that's a general lack of information about this group of foreigners. Lack of information on the side of civil servants, for example, in labor offices, who don't know the rights and obligations concerning this group of foreigners, but is also lack of information on the side of employers, of teachers, head teachers, principals, and other groups. And this is what the state, in cooperation with the NGOs and other institutions, should focus on to spread knowledge.
In France, integration was not a priority for a long time. In the past 6 years, 5-6 years, it became high on the agenda, which is a very welcome development in the country. The only downside is that it was made in a way that there was a tougher stance on control at the borders or during the asylum procedure, and then integration was only started once people got protection. It is great that more is done in terms of more developments of programs, more funding, also more link between companies that need to hire refugees, for instance, more hours of learning French. However, we believe that integration should start from day one, which means asylum seekers should be able to learn French, to have access to French courses as soon as they arrive. And they should also have access to the labor market, because yes, not all asylum seekers will end up having a protection in France, but those skills are a necessity to be able to be autonomous and to make a living in France. And even if they have to go back to their home country at the end of the process, or have another future outside of France, then those skills and assets will still be most valuable for them in the future.
Every newcomer in the Netherlands will now receive a personalized integration plan, which is drafted together with the municipality. And the municipality now also determines a learning trajectory and can advise on the proper integration courses or integration schools for the beneficiary of international protection. There are several integration trajectories aimed at the competences of the beneficiaries in question. There are trajectories aimed at the youth, those who still have to go to school. Others are aimed at really finding a job and participating in society, whereas others are aimed at a self-reliance trajectory for those who with fewer possibilities or competences. So hopefully the newly introduced regime will be able to remedy the challenges that were faced in the past, and it at least changes the narrative on integration from an individual effort of the beneficiary to a collective effort of the society.
In Latvia, the inequality between the recognized refugees and beneficiaries of subsidiary protection in terms of their eligibility to state social support was finally eliminated, which means that beneficiaries of subsidiary protection will now be able to receive the same state social benefits as the recognized refugees. And these include state family allowance, child care benefit, care for disabled child benefit, and others, which were previously not available to beneficiaries of subsidiary protection. Secondly, a national coordinating institution was established to offer a well-coordinated support for socio-economic inclusion of beneficiaries of international protection. This institution will be the Society Integration Foundation. And it will create a one-stop shop, which will start operating next year. The main objective of this new coordinating agency is to really bring together and offer very coherent, efficient support to beneficiaries of international protection, to offer well-coordinated measures which were previously scattered across different ministries and really not working very well. The biggest help to beneficiaries of international protection is offered by social mentors from different NGOs in Latvia. And we really hope that this social mentorship will now be transferred to municipalities and thus made much more stable and a firm part of integration system.
Until the full-scale Russian invasion on Ukraine started in February this year, Poland wasn't a, let's say, popular destination among refugees for many reasons. So we didn't really have the chance to test the system of integration, the integration policies we have, and also to test ourselves as citizens, our ability and capacity to also to support refugees, to help them to integrate, our openness as a society. But only now we are in the situation when we really can understand what a big challenge it is when there's suddenly a big group of refugees who need immediate help, immediate support. And this is something which really stimulates the discussion about integration policy in Poland, which in fact before this war happened was non-existent. It existed only in a relatively small circle of academia, experts on migration, and also migrants and refugees themselves.
Coming to Italy, which indeed had a quite massive influx of people asking for asylum, the country has developed a huge reception system, offering these people services in the most relevant areas of living as housing, work, as well as with legal and psychological assistance. But if we think about what is still missing in order to allow these people to nicely end up with a good living condition within Italian societies, we should probably have more precise policies focusing on the transition from system where you are in when you are asking for an asylum, and then just after when you got the status, because indeed there are no clear support, nor in terms of housing, nor in terms of work, while we have in Italy a quite high level of discrimination, both in the labor market as well as in the private housing market. So if we really want that the previous effort made by the state in receiving these people and providing them with services, the policies should also cover the exit stage in order to allow people to end up with an appreciable living condition at the end.
In Greece, what we've identified is that the legal framework is actually quite sufficient. However, there are gaps in the policy framework. More is needed for the integration of beneficiaries of international protection, since most initiatives are heavily dependent on the work of NGOs, as well as EU funding. Also, there are no permanent measures in place in order for the long-term integration of beneficiaries of international protection. What we've also noticed is that more efforts are needed for the integration of beneficiaries of international protection concerning the learning of the native language, as well as social orientation. These are the very crucial steps in order to ensure integration within other areas as well, such as employment, education, health, and naturalization. Finally, we've also identified huge gaps between the hosting society and beneficiaries of international protections, which so far are marginalized. For this reason, there have to be more policies for raising awareness and in order to enhance dialogue between local communities and beneficiaries of international protection in order to promote a long-term peaceful existence.
The NIEM indicators analysis point out a very stable reception and asylum system in the last 5 years that has tried to update its capacity, but has never filled the demand for asylum seekers in Spain. In this sense, the pandemic has made it possible due to the closure of borders and the limitations on international mobility to streamline the system now. However, the model of the asylum system and international reception and protection system from 2017 to 2021 continues to present the same problems. On the one hand, there is a lack of quantitative and qualitative resource. The system offers few places, the budget is limited, and the training of many actors involved in the system is not the most pertinent to be able to work with a group with such specific demands. On the other hand, we found a lack of coordination between the different actors in Spain and concretely in the multi-level system. The asylum system and the reception system is developed between the central governments and the NGOs. In this sense, the asylum system does not contemplate the multi-level policies that allow local NGOs, municipalities, or autonomous communities to be included in the management and development of the reception policies. Finally, the financing system also has deficiencies. The budget for the reception system is established annually and does not allow entities and the state to establish a long-term planning for the reception and integration. The second challenge, namely a refugee recognition rate far below from the European Union, that can lead in the future an increasing number of people that fall outside the asylum system and enter in an irregular situation. Finally, and regarding the future challenge presented by the asylum system, it seems that the future is somewhat more promising.
Sweden is receiving a significantly larger amount of refugees compared to other European countries. During the refugee crisis, Sweden had about 160,000 asylum applications. So even though all the policies are in place and services are accessible to refugees, this is still pressing the capacity and also the possibility to provide services when they need it. So that said, even though there are policies in place, we recognize that there are still challenges and struggles in integrating beneficiaries of international protections in Sweden. Integration efforts are the responsibility of the state and public sector. In recent years, increasing focus has been on the role of civil society organizations, how they can bridge the host and the arriving community. And this is what we focused on the NIEM report as well, that civil society have an enormous capacity and also possibility of engaging not only the majority Swedish society, but also the refugee communities to come together based on common interests such as sports, music, dancing, these kind of things. And that gives a possibility for refugees to use their agencies and their own will to participate in society.
My experience was I learned Greek language, for example, in work. When I started work, and I learned very fast, and helped me to know my rights, to know the law, to know the society better, and that's helped me to open more doors, more opportunity.
First of all, felt secure because no persecution was anymore. and nobody stopped me in the street, and nobody followed me when I was, I don't know, walking during the nighttime, returning back from my home and from my work to home. And nobody was guarding my house, always who is entering my house, who is leaving. So it was a feeling of freedom a little bit, then a freedom of being lost.
لا شك انه هلا المدارس والشغل وكله هذا اندماج، يعني طالما انت عم تشتغل مثلك مثل اي مواطن في السويد او عم تدرس، فانت يعني تعتبر مندمج. بس انا رايي كاندماج حقيقي في المجتمع هذا مو كافي، لانه بالشغل او بالمدرسه انت مهام معينه عم بتأديها وترجع على البيت، ما عم بيكون في كونتاكت او احتكاك مع الاخرين وتعارف وحكي ونقاشات. فهذا الشيء بتوفر اكثر انا برايي بالانشطه الترفيهيه. هون بيكون في مجال وفرصه كبيره للاشخاص انهم يتعرفوا على بعض، يلتقوا، يتواصلوا، يكون في احاديث واهتمامات مشتركه بيناتهم.
It was tough in the beginning, you know, new country, new people, no friends. And I'm a basketball player in Syria and coach actually, a professional. So when I came here, I just went to club here and I met parents in the beginning. I started coaching after 1 week. I met parents, they make me come and help me a lot to be actually have a lot of friends, be in the society, how system works, how things change, all new things. I mean, everything helped me. I think I did it with people around me.
I think it's the community, it's the French community, the people in France who are very supportive, who are very willing, who has this strong will to support and to be open to other immigrants who do not share the same value, who do not share the same culture, and who are very honestly really open to people, and then have this equality, you know, in their real equality. When I say equality, it's really equality in their mind, you know, and it's how they practice in daily life. I think these are the people who really helped me to integrate in France society.
المساواة بين المواطن الفرنسي والمواطن الغير فرنسي بغض النظر عن إن كان لاجئ وغير لاجئ. فالمواطن الغير فرنسي يتمتع تقريبا بجميع الحقوق اللي بيتمتع فيها المواطن الفرنسي على صعيد المساعدات الاجتماعية والرعاية الصحية والى آخره، بغض النظر عن حق التصويت. أيضا بعض الجوانب الإيجابية اللي تساهمت باندماجي بفرنسا هو الوصول إلى التعليم، بحيث أني معاند فعليا من مشاكل وصعوبات حتى استكمل دراستي بفرنسا. وأيضا على ما أعتقد هو انفتاح المجتمع الفرنسي ثقافيا وعلميا وسياسيا، كان عضو أساسي حتى يساعدني باندماجي بفرنسا. ونهاية هو تعدد الجمعيات الخيرية والإنسانية بفرنسا اللي بتقدم كثير من الأنشطة اللي بتساعد اللاجئ لحتى يتعلم اللغة، لحتى يتعرف على أشخاص جدد، وأيضا لحتى يلاقي فرص عمل ويندمج بالمجتمع الفرنسي أكثر.
As a girl coming from the Middle East, I was always very dependent on my father, brothers, and husband. But coming to Bulgaria was a completely different thing. When I came here, depending on them, I learned nothing. After that, I had to take the charge. I was more independent. I had to learn the language, go out all to governmental buildings, do all the documents and necessary things for my studies, for my paper, for everything. This was a turning point for me because I had to deal with the people. I had to do things by myself. I had to make mistakes and then learn from them. After this, I had learned there was an opportunity with the UNHCR opening a role with board in Bulgaria made only from refugees to help refugees themselves. I joined it. And this was a really good opportunity for me to meet new people, to learn that I have chances to help others. So I did. And I was very grateful to help refugees themselves and also the Bulgarian society. And this was not only for helping them, because it turns out that I was helping myself and succeeding to integrate in Bulgaria.
In 2016, when I came to Greece, I was in a Leniko camp out of the center. That is what it was very far. And then we didn't have accommodation. We live in the camp. So the only option that I could use, it was, start integrating myself to the education. For me, the first priority was accommodation and safety, but because it wasn't in my hand, I started, coming to the center. I found a place in center. It was Melissa that helped me to learn the language, and after 6 months, I tried to find the job with MSF. After a while, I was register myself for the university, enroll myself to university. That was also helped me to integrate with the society more. And in the future, I will be a psychologist to support people.
My integration experience here in Slovenia was quite positive within the last year. It started with an integration course supported by the government and provided by non-governmental organization to introduce me to all the systems here in the country, which makes it easier for me to move here and there and to proceed with any procedures independently. The second point is the support provided by non-governmental organizations here in Slovenia, as they are always providing help and support to any newcomers and migrant people here, whatever the type of support that they will need. The third point is the support provided by the people of Slovenia. They are really very keen to help anyone here, any refugees, migrants or newcomers.
There are good integration programs in terms of social activities, for example, in terms of social projects. So I think that the projects for children, for women, for families, they are very beneficial. What I really liked, it's very interesting that we come from different backgrounds, but actually all of us, we communicate in Lithuanian language. So now I could see that Lithuanian also becomes the international language which unites people. So I think it is very good for integration. So that we started to use the local language to communicate between each other. Because if you know the language, then you can feel yourself integrated, more integrated into the society.
Pareciera más fácil para los venezolanos o los latinoamericanos integrarse en España, por ejemplo, ¿no? Porque se supone que el idioma no sería una barrera, pero no es solo, o sea, tenemos diferentes barreras en la migración. Yo diría que la manera, lo más importante para el migrante, dejemos a un lado toda la parte de jurídica del Estado. Cada Estado tiene un sistema. Europa en eso es mucho más avanzada que cualquier otra parte del mundo. Creo, es mi criterio, o sea, pero yo sí creo que el país, la receptividad del país de acogida es lo más importante para quienes salimos del nuestro. El que nos reciban incluso desde las mismas diferencias, que entiendan que somos diferentes, que nos brinden la oportunidad de reconocer las diferencias para nosotros poder encajar dentro de esta sociedad que nos está recibiendo. Para mí es lo más importante.
Several aspects helped me to integrate in Slovenia. The first one was the permanent status, which is giving me stability and a base to build a new life and start a new life in Slovenia. The second one was the Slovenian society itself. Through friends and the network around me. I got a lot of help from them to know the system and the norms of the society and to know more about life in Slovenia. The third and the most important thing was, which has had a lot of impact actually on my life, the NGOs and organizations in Slovenia. Since they had a lot of integration programs, and also they had different projects working on integration issues, I got myself involved in one of these programs, and it leads me completely to different direction in my life, which is the best way possible.
The most helpful thing that I found to get me integrated, to get me into the society was the society itself, the people that I lived with and around, just based on pure luck, I guess. It was just circumstantial that I happened to be in this place at this time. The people in Bulgaria are very, very welcoming, and they accept a person as soon as, like, you know, you just have to show the general things of modesty, politeness with them. Give this advice to whether it's foreigners or people in the same situation, political situation as I am, whether they are asylum seekers or refugees or with a humanitarian status. Like, don't see yourself as a foreigner. Don't see that which differs you from the others, but find the similarities. And there is one and only similarity between everyone, which is you're just a human.
Ever since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, we saw a lot of changes in terms of reception and integration of refugees in the country. Things which were problems for the refugees under humanitarian protection and international protection, such as opening a bank account or providing adequate housing, have been solved, but solely for the Ukrainian citizens. There has also been a lot of good cooperation between the civil society and the government. So our effort will be to take these good practices and to try to stimulate the government to implement them and to have them as a standard practice for all refugees who come to Bulgaria.
With the start of the Ukrainian crisis, everything has changed in Hungary almost overnight. The government introduced new laws on protecting people fleeing the war in Ukraine. There's a big social mobilization. Agencies are cooperating. Government, church-based NGOs, or even international agencies. So right now there is a great help given to refugees, and we really wish that this help would be available for other refugees coming from other parts of the world as well.
Since the war in Ukraine, the situation changed dramatically in Romania in relationship with the number of migrants, refugees that are coming here. The number has increased 10 times in a space of 2 months, and it is an important burden on the Romanian capacity to accept, integrate, and offer basic support to refugees. Also from this perspective, the NIEM research is helping because it's offering access to a database, let's call it like this, a database of positive practices and way to handle this type of important waves of refugees.
Since March, since Ukrainian refugees started coming to Slovenia, we have seen drastic changes, something that was not possible for years. All of the sudden was possible to change overnight, basically. So we are really hoping that the government will now keep this political will and that the positive changes that we see will actually affect all of the refugees, not only refugees from the Ukraine.
On Ukrainian case, I would say that we do not have like a lot of changes regarding the, integration and reception. However, what is important really to talk about that at the moment, probably we are not talking about integration, we're talking only about the resettlement and reception procedures. Integration will be just going on. But what we noticed that there is a huge solidarity among people, among Lithuanians, who really welcome those people and are trying to provide as much support as possible.
Before the unprecedented influx of Ukrainian civilians in Latvia, we actually had been going through another crisis, that is irregular migrants arriving across the Belarusian-Latvian border. And we couldn't deal with several tens of people who were pushed back daily for several months. And all of a sudden, with the arrival of Ukrainian civilians in Latvia, everything changed. There was political will, there was capacity to develop good solutions in cooperation between government, municipalities, businesses, and civil society organizations. And I would really like to see the same happening with respect to other refugees, not only Ukrainians.
I think that Poles can be rightly proud of the way they're supporting now Ukrainian refugees and Ukraine in general. But I would wish that this would apply to all refugees no matter where they come from. We observe a drastic difference in the treatment of refugees from Ukraine, especially Ukrainian citizens, holders of Ukrainian passports, and refugees who try to enter into the European Union through the border between Belarus and Poland, refugees from Muslim countries, from African countries, and the way they are treated by our government, the way they are denied entry and basic rights is simply inhumane, and it shouldn't be like this.
With Ukrainians coming to France, as in other countries, there were specific procedures in place, specific programs, and we saw that even though at the moment people arrived, there was a very negative discourse on immigration and refugees. It was part of the presidential political campaign, which was very focused against immigration. Suddenly, there was positive messages and things that seemed impossible were done overnight. So we think that this should serve as a lesson learned that when a government wants to put things in place, they really can, and they should do it not only for Ukrainians, but for other asylum seekers that come to France. And the cooperation also between the administration, NGOs, government has shown that when there is a political will, we can really achieve a lot.
In recent months, we have seen a radical shift in the asylum and reception system after the crisis arising from the Ukrainian conflict. For the first time, and unlike previous similar situations in the past, a strong institutional response has been given, supported by civil society. And now we have new tools in terms of cooperation and coordination that have been activated in a record time. And this is already yielding results. On the one hand, we see how there are more actors involved at all levels. On the other hand, we see that the first reception system works in a much more agile and rapid way, which raises a question for the future. To what extent could this response go further and be established at an institutional level and in the long term?
I think that the most important thing is to understand that you're dealing not with a temporary situation, but that some of the people who came to Poland because of the war in Ukraine, and also other groups of people who came to Poland before, that some of them will want to stay here forever. So we don't need only temporary solutions, as suggested by some of the representatives of our government. They're not guests. Some people from our government call them. They are refugees, and we need really long-term integration policies in order to enable these people to enjoy life as other citizens have in Poland, to have maybe also perspective of becoming citizens of Poland or fully integrating into the society. I don't think that our government at this point understands that this should be their goal, not only providing the refugees from Ukraine, and especially from Ukraine, with some temporary solutions.